For about 56 hours after the Apollo 13 strategic on April 11, 1970, it appeared to be the smoothest trip of NASA's Apollo program up until this point. The rocket shipping space travelers Jim Lovell, Jack Swigert and Fred Haise to their arranged lunar landing had voyaged a little more than 200,000 miles from Earth, and was moving toward the Moon's circle. Not long before 9 p.m. on April 13, the group wrapped up a TV communique in which they had given a visit through the shuttle and discussed how they were overseeing weightlessness. This is the group of Apollo 13 wishing everyone there a pleasant night, closed down Mission Commander Lovell, a chief in the U.S. Naval Force with 3 different missions counting Apollo 8, added to his repertoire. Under 10 minutes after the fact, after a normal upkeep task went amiss and caused the shuttle's oxygen tanks to detonate, what should be the U.S. space program's third arrival on the Moon transformed into an urgent race to spare 3 space explorers' lives. Working non-stop from Mission Control at the Manned Spacecraft Center, presently Johnson Space Center, in Houston, Texas, NASA flight controllers and designers ad-libbed a progression of imaginative strategies to bring Lovell, Swigert and Haise securely home on April 17, denoting an effective end to one of the most emotional scenes throughout the entire existence of the U.S. space program. Missed warning signs. So as to control the power modules that gave a large portion of the power utilized during the flight, the Apollo rocket conveyed 2 tanks of fluid hydrogen and 2 tanks of fluid oxygen. NASA's resulting examination uncovered that the No. 2 oxygen tank locally available Apollo 13 had been unintentionally dropped during upkeep before the Apollo 10 crucial 1969, causing slight inner harm that didn't appear in later investigations. During testing in March 1970, the reinstalled tank neglected to appropriately purge itself of oxygen. The testing group chose to tackle this issue by warming the tank for the time being to constrain the fluid oxygen to consume off. Be that as it may, the flood of intensity from the high-voltage DC framework on the ground caused the programmed shut-off switches on the tank's warmer to fall flat, and the temperature spiked to in excess of 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Despite the fact that there was no outer sign of the issue, the warmth evidently harmed the protection on the wires inside the tank, successfully transforming the tank into a bomb holding on to detonate. Chain reaction leads to explosion. While in flight, the space explorers needed to turn on the fuel tank's inward fans occasionally so as to mix the 2 cool oxygen, which would in general delineate, or subside into layers. Be that as it may, when Swigert turned on the fans on the subsequent oxygen tank for a routine, cryo mix, the evening of April 13, the harmed wiring caused a sparkle, lighting a fire. At 9:08 p.m., with its interior tension building, the tank detonated. As Lovell describes in an up-and-coming History This Week web recording, he and Haise were found totally napping when they heard the blast. I gazed toward Fred Haise to check whether he comprehended what caused the clamor. What's more, I could tell from his demeanor, he had no clue. At that point I looked down at Jack Swigert in the order module and his eyes were as wide as saucers. Furthermore, I could see that this was the beginning of a long, tricky excursion home. Houston, we've had an issue here, Swigert stated, in the wake of seeing a notice light switch on in the wake of hearing the blast of the detonating tank. He would later be broadly misquoted. More flickering lights before long showed the loss of 2 of the boat's 3 power devices, which notwithstanding power gave consumable water, utilized for cooling the rocket's frameworks just as hydrating the space travelers. At that point, 13 minutes after the blast, Lovell looked out the window and saw something different upsetting. "We are venting something out into space," he revealed. "It's a gas or some likeness thereof." Because the 2 oxygen tanks were situated in a similar section of the rocket, the blast had harmed the other tank too, and it had started spilling oxygen into space. The rocky road to touchdown. Ground controllers in Houston currently activated to run an extraordinary endurance crucial. They requested the group to advance from the rocket's order module, Odyssey, into the different landing module, Aquarius. In the event that things had gone as arranged, Aquarius wouldn't have been turned on until the space explorers were prepared to land on the Moon. Presently, it needed to keep Lovell, Swigert and Hayes alive for an expected 90 hours, until they could move back to the Harmed Order module for re-emergence into Earth's climate. The team killed all non-basic frameworks on board the shuttle to diminish vitality utilization, and cut route back on their utilization of water, so as to have enough to cool the arrival module's strained equipment. At a certain point, when a lot of carbon dioxide was developing in Aquarius, Mission Control conceived a route for the space travelers to get the gas out, teaching them to construct a letterbox out of plastic packs, cardboard and tape so as to cleanse the gas-utilizing canisters from the order module. Apollo 13 declared a fruitful failure. On April 17, after the specialists in Houston prevailing with regards to controlling Odyssey back up, the group arranged for the last phases of their excursion to Earth by casting off the lunar module. At long last, at 11:53 a.m., what was left of the Apollo 13 rocket re-emerged the Earth's climate, landing in the Pacific Ocean, close to Samoa. Since so much significant experience was picked up during the time spent safeguarding Lovell, Swigert, and Hayes, NASA ordered the Apollo 13 crucial a fruitful disappointment. Starting with Apollo 14, every rocket would be provided with an extra battery just as a third save oxygen tank, situated in another area of the administration module from the other two, that could be utilized only to give air to the space explorers. More than 8 more Apollo missions, no such episode at any point happened once more. If you liked the video, do not forget to subscribe and like. Thanks for watching.